Welcome to Puzzle Dungeon Workshop. I'm Direct Sun. Today, my guest is a prolific novelist, modularist, and YouTubist. They have a fantastic series on adventure writing, creating your own adventure, which covers writing, illustration, marketing, and publishing, you name it. And if you're looking for their name, look no further than two first names, sandwiching a pirate. It's Joseph R. Lewis.
Thank you for that
going,
fantastic
Joe?
introduction. It is true, I have attempted all of those things. That's a very long list. I'm a big proponent of trying things. So I've tried many things. And I like writing very much. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming on and agreeing to help me give some feedback on a Puzzle Dungeon Jam entry.
Absolutely.
It's very nice of you to take some time out and do that. I know that you have really shown that you want people to make their own stuff and you want to share your knowledge with the rest of them. Your YouTube series that you have, how did that start? I know the intro, you have like a little blurb on some of the first ones that say your friends in the community have tricked you into making these series. How did that come about?
Yeah, no, I wasn't tricked so much as I was gently bullied by Yochai Gall and Brad Kerr and Sam Mameli that I should do a YouTube series about writing. So I just started doing it, and I've kept it up for about a year now, and I'm running thin on ideas, folks, so send me some questions and suggestions for what you want me to talk about. Otherwise, I'm going to run out of videos. But otherwise, it's been a lot of fun, and I've got to meet a lot of cool people, and I think I've helped some people actually to get started writing and publishing, so that feels good. I really like teaching. I teach a lot in my day job, and I like to be able to help people achieve what they want to do, so that's great.
That's great. I love to hear it. I like when people are making new stuff, and yeah, it's got to feel great when you get those comments on it. Say, you gave me the push to start and get something out there.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I've had a bunch of those, and it does feel really good. So everyone should be writing and drawing, and whatever it is you want to make, you should do it.
When I said that you're a prolific creator, I really did mean it. You have it's astounding output. How many novels and adventures do you have now? Have you lost count?
I'm not good at counting them. There's novels and there's short stories and there's collections. It's like 30 books of fiction, and then 20 to 25 adventures and games over the games over the last 7 years, and then the novels the 10 years before that. So yeah, no, I'm good at working. I don't know that the work is good, but I'm good at working. I can sit down and I can bang out words all night long. So I'm very focused on that part of the craft.
That's nice. Yeah, I know you have some advice in some of your videos to just write something every night, even if it's not a lot to get done. And then over time, it just kind of adds up to, a book, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I consider myself a much better editor than a writer, but you can't edit nothing. So the hard part is putting some words on the page, and then for me, the easier part is then fixing those words to be better words. So if you can get over the hump of turning an empty page into some kind of words, then I think it's easier to hammer those into good words. But that's just been my experience. I know other people are much more artful and creative and can spit out good words the first time around. So more power to them. But I have to do it the hard way. But if you can just, going from 0 to 1, getting from nothing to something is the hardest step of anything. So if you can do that, if you can just get started, everything else is slightly easier than that, I think.
What you said in a bunch of the beginning videos, I think really resonated with me. And it's more of that getting just something out there. I think you equated it one time to slapping just like a bunch of clay on the table and then kind of like shaving that once you have something and forming it and molding it into something that you actually like over time.
Yeah. No, I do a lot of analogies. Usually my analogies are car related because I think people can relate to cars. But yeah, no, the pottery, the wheel thing with the clay seemed to make sense there. That if you can just start from something, that's easier than starting from nothing. So clay is easier than an empty wheel.
I've really taken to heart what you said also about the lists too. I feel like I'm making lists of everything now. The
Yeah, no, that's another cheat. I love cheats. It's much easier to copy down a list or just words than it is to write whole sentences or paragraphs. So if you can make a list of ideas, then that's easier than writing sentences about ideas. So if you can cheat your way forward towards your eventual goal, I'm all for it. I've spent 20 years inventing cheats to find ways to make my creative process effective and generate actual completed projects, which is the hardest thing to do. And then you get it out the door and you start the next project. So anything that you can do that helps you to write or create or generate or finish projects, do those cheats. Embrace all of them. Grab all the tips and tricks you can from anyone, because it is hard to figure out how to start a lot of things, and then it's hard to figure out how to finish. So getting all that together is the secret sauce.
How often would you say you are starting a project and not finishing it?
Uh, Currently, very rarely. Usually, at this point, if I have an idea that I actually want to get going, uh, it's enough fully formed, and I have enough energy and a desire to push forward with it that it's going to happen. It's very rare that I start to cobble together ideas and then abandon something in the middle. It still happens, but not often. Usually, just I abandon something because it gets overtaken by something that I'm more excited about. Um, I usually don't lose interest in something. You just get more excited about the next idea. But at this point, I've got the process down really well. So
Yeah.
I get an idea, I hammer through all the work, I make a crappy first draft, I fix it into a better draft, I push it out the door, I get it published, and then I can start the next project. And I can, when I'm focused, I can do an adventure like we do these days in a month or two, the entire project. So it doesn't languish and sit around, and I don't lose interest and excitement about the project and let it fall on the back burner. But that absolutely used to happen to me back in the day, but not these days.
I feel like I have some projects that I work on and I take forward, and I'm like, I don't know if this works completely or fully. And so it just winds up getting shelved or put on the back burner while I look at something else. And maybe I'll go and I'll harvest pieces of that for other things, like, oh, I like this NPC, or I like this trap or this room or something, and pull it back. But yeah, I have quite a few scattered notes of stuff that I'm probably never gonna come back to.
Oh, absolutely. I in one of my videos I talked about the idea that I usually have a main project that I'm actively working on that's going to get finished, and then I usually have like a side project that I'm kind of thinking that will be the next main project that I might just be putting notes onto. And then I have a million Google documents that are just like a handful of notes. Like, wouldn't it be cool if there's a cowboy on a spaceship? And that's the whole document. And then I go through those and I look for ideas. Of, were any of these good? No, these were all terrible, and I delete them. Um, but yeah, no, I go through the same project process of creating stuff and then sifting through it, trying to figure out what the good stuff is and cobbling it together into a finished project that actually happens.
I noticed that a lot of your more recent projects, you've been doing 3 rule sets, and you've been releasing videos on how you do that. You kind of have like 1 page of stats for common monsters for each of the rule sets. Got Shadow Dark, Cairn, and
OSC.
OSC. That's right.
Yep.
And it's pretty neat, I think, how you describe how you do it and making them work for all those systems. I know that you had said before that you like to write for the system that you're playing in and you're running in. Are you playtesting this in like all 3 of them at the same time? What's the process that you're going through with that?
So I've done a lot of adventures now in multi systems, in 3 systems over the last couple of years, and the reason for that is I want to support people who are playing games, and a lot of people have their favorite system or their only system. So I want to be supporting, their systems and all those GMs. Um, it's not what I would prefer to do. I know it's not. It doesn't make the best product because I have to make compromises to be kind of system agnostic. I know it's not the best choice, but I'm trying to support everyone, and I'm trying to be part of all these different communities. And I don't want to write 3 different complete versions of the same adventure because that's just more work for me, and I'm very lazy. So um, What I've tried to do is write most of the adventure in a kind of system neutral fashion so that the rules of the various systems don't interact too much with the content. And then I can write separate bestiaries of just monsters, and that's easy enough. And then sometimes I can just write a little, like a blurb or a column that's just some notes to the GM, like this is how much treasure is worth in your system. You know, if you find a ruby, it's 25 gold for you, it's 300 gold for you. This is how much damage a trap does, you know, et cetera, et cetera. I'm trying to cater to those different GMs. I'm trying to cater to those different tables. But really, I just want to write a cool adventure. And then I have to step back and like, oh, right, people write and play in systems and they have rules and they have to care about the rules. And I know rules are very important. I play in all these systems and I appreciate the importance of the rules. But I feel this tension between wanting to support everyone's game and have a great time and then also have to support all the systems and the nitty gritty rules. So there's that complexity. But yes, to the answer to the original question, I do play test some of them in multiple systems. Not all of them, but when I can, I do play test in multiple systems. But usually, I'm still the GM, so that's cheating because I already know how the adventure should play, and I'm pretty good with my players at managing a table. So even if something goes wrong, I can fix it on the fly. In an ideal world, I would have like 10 different GMs and they would play it for me and then report back to me on what worked and what didn't.
That'd be nice.
But I'm just a guy who is working out of, as you can see, one of my daughter's old baby rooms. So I have limited resources and time and energy. So you get as many play tests as I can muster up, and then I hope it's good enough.
Right on. Well said. Your most recent project that you released not too long ago, Lovely Jade Necropolis. Is that one of your longer adventures, right? I think came in at around like 80 pages, 85-ish.
It is. Look, it's a book. Beautiful. I love making physical books. Everyone should make physical books. Don't just make PDFs. Make a physical book. Learn how the printing process works. It's very cool. So yes, Lovely Jade Necropolis is about 80 pages, and it is for Shadowdark and Cairn and Old School Essentials. And it's pretty big. It's a small campaign or a very long adventure where you get to go through this Fey palace, where everyone died. There was a war 100 years ago, and then some necromancers showed up, resurrected everyone who's dead, and is using them as servants and soldiers. And they're fighting each other now. These two necromancers and the Fey have come back, and they want their palace back. So there's all this tension, lots of faction play, lots of cool old stuff, lots of cool new stuff, lots of necromancy and undead stuff. So lots of elements to play with, lots of ways for your game to play out. And it was a lot of fun to play test. So, and I've heard that people are having fun with it already. So that's good to hear.
Joe, everything I've made so far, I think you could usually run it in about 1 to 3 sessions, right? I'm a one-shot kind of GM. That's how I run a lot of my games these days. That's what I have time for. I've run campaigns before and I do love them, but I find it's pretty easy to playtest a one-shot or something that takes just a few times. Is easier on scheduling to get the same people to make sure they remember what happened last time. How are you playtesting like a campaign, something that happens over a long period of time where the players might not even get to specific content that you want to see if it works? What do you do then?
True. No, it's a big problem. You're absolutely right. No, when I write something that's smaller, one shot, I just finished writing a one-shot-y kind of thing, and I've play tested 4 times in the last month. It's easy. Yeah, no, Lovely Jade Necropolis, I play tested once, and I did it by gently steering the players into the rooms that I wanted to check on. Some of the rooms are very simple. There's a trap, or there's a monster, and it's a room in a dungeon, and we've all done that. But lots of the rooms were new and unique and complicated, and I wanted them to interact with the NPCs or whatever. So yeah, there would be a random encounter, and they would get kind of led into that room, or something would happen. Or at sometimes, I would remind them, we are playtesting material that I've written that I hope to publish. So if you guys could head east and go into that section of the dungeon, I'd really appreciate it. And they would play along, and they would be very good sports about it. So I'm very lucky to have a lot of great players in my personal server who are very eager to support my playtesting and to give me very valuable feedback. So yeah, that process is imperfect, and I'm doing my best, but it is what it is.
Right on. Cool, thank you. Yeah, that was one of my burning questions that I had with playtesting, because I watched your playtesting video, and yeah, I've had an issue where I add a new thing and I playtest the adventure like 3 times and no one does the thing, or no one
Hmm.
gets to the content, and I'm like, well, I guess this is just content that not a lot of people come to. Like, how do I make sure that you know this is covered? But yeah.
Sure. And I've run playtests where over and over again, no one ever finds the secret door, the passage, or whatever it is, and that's a little disappointing for me because I wanted to see someone, touch the thing. But it's also very cool because you're like, oh, this is going to be a part of the adventure that very rarely gets interacted with, but eventually someone will. And that'll be a cool, unique, special thing for that table, that gameplay session. Um, and if it goes wrong, then I'm sorry, but probably it'll just be some weird, cool, unique experience. And hopefully they'll go online and talk about, hey, what happened when you found the secret door? And everyone will be like, what secret door? And that would be a cool moment for me to find on Reddit or something. So I'm okay with some things never getting found. If it's not like, the core big bad or something. It's fine if they never find that room off to the side. That'll be my little secret. That's fine.
You hear the advice sometimes, kill your darlings, right? So something that you're really excited about, you're very happy to put in here, but maybe it's not gonna work out. How can you tell what those things are, and how can you just like kind of make yourself put it to the side and get rid of it?
Yeah, no, I've been hearing that advice since, for 20 years since I started, writing fiction. And I understand the concept, which is if you're very precious about something, it's probably just for you and it's not serving the story or the character or whatever. So I did that a lot in my fiction. In my adventures, I have thrown that advice completely out the window. I love my darlings and I put them in my adventure because I like them. They're for me. And if you like my adventures, you like my darlings, and that's great. And if you don't like my darlings, then my adventures are not for you, and that is also fine. But they're my darlings, and if I don't get to put my darlings in my adventures, then why do I not get to be me and embrace my nonsense? Um, in one of my adventures, what was it? Obsidian Keep. You're out in the harbor and you're investigating these destroyed ships and whatever. There's a raft where there are 4 surviving sailors that you can interact with or get attacked by or whatever. They are named after the Ninja Turtles, not so subtly, which is just a dumb in joke that I put because it was funny to me. And if you're young enough, maybe you don't like pop culture, you won't recognize that those are the Ninja Turtles. And if you're like me, you'll recognize it, and hopefully you get a giggle out of it. And if it ruins the adventure for you, then I'm sorry. But
Or
if
if
I don't
you're
get to be me in my own creative work, then what is the point of doing creative work?
right
So
on.
you get my personal dumb jokes in my content sometimes.
Thank you, Joe. I'm going to take that as permission for my own adventures.
100%.
So I
Please do.
appreciate it. Joe, before I forget at the end, is there anything else you want to talk about or pitch before we get into the puzzle dungeon today?
Things to pitch. Nothing specific. I always have a new adventure coming out. There will always be something new. The latest big thing is Lovely Jane Necropolis. So if you want a big, chunky, meaty, small campaign or large adventure, please check that out. Again, it's for Old School Essentials and Shadow Dark and Cairn. And it's full of my art, so you get to see my attempts at drawing a lot of monsters, which was very cool. But I encourage anyone who wants to see what I'm doing, check out my YouTube channel where I'm talking about how to write adventures. I really encourage you guys to get out there and start writing and drawing and making your own stuff with your own hands. I think it's a very valuable pursuit as a human being to make stuff. And other than that, yeah, buy my stuff because I appreciate that very much. Go to josephrlewis.com and Joseph R. Lewis on YouTube and find all my stuff and buy all my stuff and give me 5-star reviews. But no, I don't need more attention. No, let's talk about the thing that we came to talk about. Let's do that.
Yeah, right on. So this is part of Puzzle Dungeon Jam.
Heck yeah.
Puzzle Dungeon Jam was an effort where I put a call out to a bunch of folk and it said, make some puzzle dungeons and I will read them and give you some feedback on them. And if you want to make changes, you can do that. With normal reviews, it can be hard to kind of make changes to a product that you've already printed like 1,000 copies of. So
Yep.
just kind of want to make this part of a process where people who may not have received editorial dev feedback before can kind of get a feel for what it is and make changes if they want to. That's what it is. We're not going to bash any of the entries today. We're going to talk about how they can be improved, what we liked about them, and what we thought could make them a better dungeon. Today we're looking at Titansflute, and this has the text and layout and art by Alex Niederberger. And
Yes.
it says the layout is based on a layout by Adam Hensley. And the text is completely CC BY-SA 4.0.
Excellent. Good work, Alex. Text, art, and layout. Do it all yourself. Master all the skills. Very good.
Yeah, I'm jealous of the triple threats, as they are called, the Joseph R. Lewis, the Leo Hunts.
I spend all my time looking at Leo's work, at who am I thinking of? Luca Reyes, and there's so many incredibly talented, the Johan Nors, people who are blowing my mind with design and art and layout and even writing and editing and stuff. And there's so many people that I'm looking up to try to emulate. But I think we should all be trying to do that. We should all be looking up, trying to do as many things as we can.
I have this book, so I'm also trying to draw. I've cracked it open a couple of times. I'm terrible at making lines, apparently, so that's what it suggests starting with, and I'm bad at it, so I need practice, so I think it's on point.
No, my hand betrays me all the time. My wrist and fingers betray me. They're made out of meat. I don't know what's going on. They're not good.
For those of you just listening, the book is called You Will Be Able to Draw by the End of This Book, Ink by Jake Spicer.
Nice.
Okay, so just a general overview first. Titansflute is a puzzle dungeon for Cairn 2E, and the premise is there was this big Titan's bone. It's like this big old giant, and the bones and body of this giant are lying in this water valley kind of thing, right? There's water around.
Somehow just above the ocean, so it's on a cliff maybe, or on a coast of some kind.
It's fun artwork. I could show this to my players and they would know where it is. You got little remains up over here. There's a little picture of the wind, the direction it's flowing. There is a master flute maker who decided to take these giant skeletal remains and carve a double flute, which I had never heard of. I'm not very musically inclined. I played the trumpet, the recorder, also the recorder,
Yeah.
the trumpet for a little bit. There's a lot of music puzzles in here, I would say. The theme is wind and sound. Mm-hmm. And I think it's got that theme going for it. The master flute maker carved these bones into a massive double flute, right? I think that's where the head is. And I
had to look up the word. It's a hyoid bone, which is in the description. And that's actually a sort of a U-shaped bone in your throat. It's part of your voice box. So they took that one bone from the Titan's throat, and carved it into the double flute. So I had to look all that up because I didn't know what a hyoid bone was. But I've learned something. Thank you, Alex.
Nice. Yeah, so they carved this, and the players can go into this flute and around this flute, and I like the idea that the dungeon itself is like a puzzle box dungeon in that they're manipulating the dungeon itself to create sound and direct wind, and I think that's a neat idea.
I do too. I was very excited about a musical dungeon.
Did I?
And it had a very Legend of Zelda kind of vibe immediately. It felt like this. We're going into a giant ocarina. We're going to solve some puzzles. It felt very Link to me.
There's even a dude who will lend you his ocarina if you need it for certain puzzles, which is nice.
Yes.
Nice of them. Let's see. So we have some hooks here. Basically, you want to go there, and you could find a dude find a vagabond, named Tio, and bring them back and get some money as a reward. And or you could grab the Titansflute, a MacGuffin, or you want to know how to play this Titansflute. And it says that these hooks are ordered in the order of least engagement to most engagement in the dungeon. All right, I think I've done everything for the background. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you've covered all of the things.
Cool.
Um,
All right.
yeah.
So I would say we could give our overall feedback. So things that we noticed were reoccurring with the work, and then we could dive into the nitty gritty, and then give kind of our final thoughts on the matter.
Okay. I have many specific notes, so you tell
Yep.
me when we need to get specific. But we're
Okay.
gonna start. We're gonna start overview, right?
Yeah. Overview.
Okay.
So I thought it was a really neat idea. I thought that some of the puzzles were a little bit confusing. They could have changed a bit of the information presentation to make it a little bit easier layout wise. And I have some notes on there. I think those are pretty easy fixes. And I think focusing on the wind and sound would help. There were some puzzles which I think kind of strayed and didn't make sense, I think, with these particular gimmicks and the puzzle itself. But I think if they were modified slightly or changed a bit, the final puzzle might have been modified a bit, and it kept on track. Something to talk to, I think, would have benefited this. A little bit of tension would have benefited from this. There's one person I think that you can talk to in this besides maybe a ghost at the end. They're Tio, and they're generally very agreeable. There's not much to kind of disagree with them. They want to help you, I think, unless you're there to like capture them or something. I didn't feel a lot of pressure, I think, in this that I wanted to feel. What do you think, Joe?
I think I'm about to echo everything you just said. I really liked the concept initially, but as I started to read the delivery, the presentation of the concept, I found very complex. I was immediately concerned from a GM's point of view. How would I explain this puzzle to a bunch of people, either at a table or verbally online? I play a lot of online games, and then also I was trying to think of it from the player's point of view. If I was being told this information verbally, would I be able to put together all these puzzle pieces? I immediately, again, I was thinking of Legend of Zelda dungeons. They all have like a water temple, which is one of the more complex temples where you have to solve a bunch of puzzles, and the level of the water rises, so the whole dungeon essentially changes. So now you can access different things, or you lose access to things. And try imagining playing a Legend of Zelda dungeon, being told it. You can't see it, but someone is verbally describing, all right, now everything has changed. Turn around, things look different. Move to the next room, things look different. So the information presentation and the overall complexity of the space felt very challenging. I don't know how I would play this at a table unless I was literally putting the map in front of the players. And I think I would actually cut it up as pieces of paper so they can manipulate the map, the pieces of paper on the table. Otherwise, I think I'd be very challenged to explain it to them as a GM. I think I'd be very challenged as a player to understand the puzzles. I also know who I am as a person, and if you have to say more than three things to me at any given time, I kind of tune out, which I know makes me not a very good player in certain situations. I really love social situations, and anytime one of my GMs starts to explain a very complex puzzle that's clearly just a puzzle, I kind of go over and grab some snacks, and I let the very technical minded people do the puzzle, and I just tune out. I think, and I know I'm not proud of that. I'm saying that with a lot of guilt and shame. But I think if someone started to present these puzzles to me, I would tune out because of the complexity of the details. I think I would just feel overwhelmed. And on the same notes as you were saying, there's no random encounters, so there's no pressure. There's only one NPC to talk to who just is an exposition dump. I would love someone else to interact with, maybe like the ghost of this flute maker. You find his dead body. That would have been cool to talk to him. Or anyone else, maybe someone else is robbing the space. All the same things you were talking about. It feels like a very static space for the most part, where there's not a lot of danger, and you're just trying to solve a very complex puzzle verbally. So I think there's a lot of potential, but I think there's a lot of work to do to make it easier and more engaging and more dynamic.
I think you hit the nail on the head with it feeling like a puzzle from a Zelda video game. And what I think back to is, say, when you flip a switch in Zelda and the camera pans. You can do
Yeah.
that because it's a video game, and you can move the camera and you can show the player exactly
Right. It shows you
what you
three
want them to
rooms
see.
away, a door has opened or whatever it
Yes.
is. Right, right.
But it doesn't work in collective imagination land. It doesn't work at the table. I think what would make this a little bit easier is to hone in on those beeps and boops and those clues, and ease up on the information dump, as you said. Less context overload. So there's certain areas where you can see everything. There's some rooms where there are like 6 or 7 different points of interest. I think if we bring in the light a little bit and we say these are 3 things that, again, that we can keep in our heads and we can investigate and examine, check those out first, and then move on to something else, investigate, examine. I think that would help keep it in the GM's head and convey it to the players a little bit better.
Yeah. I think another general problem is that the entire dungeon is basically one large puzzle. So you're going from room to room, collecting bits of information, manipulating all of these different rooms to solve one puzzle. So you have to be fully engaged and paying attention the entire time, which feels exhausting, and you're not getting any reward moment to moment. It would be better, in my personal opinion, if each room had its own musical puzzle. So you could look at, just a handful of levers to pull and play with. You solve one puzzle, you feel good about it, you move on to the next room. So you feel a sense of accomplishment, and you're moving forward. But as it's presented now, there's one massive puzzle. The pieces are all over the place. They're very complex pieces. And another concern I have is you spend a lot of time collecting information that helps you solve the puzzle at the end. But then when you get to the end, you basically just, there's a control console in which I mean, there's no mechanic for playing this flute. So you just say, I play the flute correctly. I mean, that's all the player has to do is say, okay, I now have the solution. I play the flute correctly. And the GM says, yes, you play it correctly, and the effect happens. So from that point of view, the players don't have to learn anything. They can say, oh, I found puzzle piece 1, 2, 3, and 4. I don't need to remember what's actually on any of them. I now go to the end. I plug in puzzle pieces 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I perform the action. I play the instrument, and it just happens. You don't have to engage with the content. You don't have to say, what are the notes on the pages? Or, the details become unimportant at that point. You just say, I have collected all of the tokens. I turn on the machine at the end, and it works. Which feels anticlimactic from a drama sort of point of view.
It was a little hard for me to imagine a party going through here, like what route they could take. I think this would benefit from a few playtests first to see in general where the players go and how the pieces put together. I'm sure that the designer had in mind that you're going to go to one place, you're going to see a lock, and you're going to fiddle with some stuff, come back and say, okay, this opens the lock. How does this particular mechanism work? There's like a rotating chamber, the first one right here, right? This configuration is not the configuration needed in order to solve the final puzzle, right? If you play the flute in this configuration, it's not going to work. There's other things that you need to tweak in order to get it to happen.
Right.
I agree with you. I think if it was more likely to present them like the final room and show them all the fiddly bits up front and say, okay, you're playing it and the larger flute is playing too, but it doesn't sound the same way. It sounds like something is being blocked in this one spot, which kind of drives the action forward and gets them to explore. Like, well, let's check out that other column over there. Let's check out to see what is blocking there. There are some small puzzles, I think, to give the serotonin juice as you go forward. They're wind and music related. They're just opening up doors or chests.
Right. But they don't even feel like puzzles. They just feel like locked doors. That most of them are doors that have a note written on them. It says G, so you play a G and the door opens, which feels, less engaging to me. There's also some treasure chests that have a propeller which you just spin and then it unlocks. You don't even have to do something. You just literally touch it and it opens. So those actually feel less engaging, less dynamic, less challenging.
So maybe there is an issue with getting stuff across with the text. How I interpreted those specific puzzles, there's a door here between 3 and 4. I have the map pulled up. So 3 is the corridor with the wind flowing through it, the first configuration. Then there's the door with the note. It's locked. It goes into 4. It has the note on it. And there's an entry for the locked door that says if you play the note, it'll open up. However, if you're using a wind instrument, which they probably are, there are flutes in here. I can't imagine you sustaining a tone with a percussion instrument. That would be really hard, right? If you just have like a really loud drum beat, just constant. I don't. Again, I don't know
if you
about
brought
music,
a whole set of bells with you and you could just ring a bell, if you had, if it was the 12 nights of Christmas and you've got all of your silver bells set up, or if you've brought a harp and you can just pluck the notes.
So they say to sustain the note, right? And they say it's hard to do with when there's wind blasting through, which I think makes sense. And I think that they intend to say close off this wind before you can play the note.
Sure.
And I think that's neat. That's a little extra bit in order to get that there. And then the propeller on the chest, I think it said you need to get it up to speed. I don't think they would be able to like blow on it or spin it with their finger fast enough to do it. They would need a little extra oomph in order to do it. Bringing it out into the hallway probably to get it to spin would work. But there's just that little extra to do it. I think those are fine small puzzles to get you going.
I don't know. As written, I'd be concerned as a GM if it just says spin it fast for 10 seconds. If one of my players suggested, doing X, Y, Z, I would say, okay, that probably works and let it happen. I wouldn't say, oh, that's not fast enough for my propeller. You need to do something else. As long as they suggested something reasonable, it would probably just happen for me because there's no other mechanic given by the text.
I guess I don't know a lot about like propellers. The first thing that's coming to my mind is like a computer fan. I know that you have a certain amount of rotations per minute, and I wouldn't be able to get up to that rotations per minute with my finger or my breath or something. If I had some compressed air, I could do it specifically. But I think that would be fine, like rewarding some players to come up with something in their bag. Like if they had some
bellows,
yeah.
Yeah,
right.
That's a great idea.
That sounds fantastic.
No, I think the players are very smart and very creative, and I think in a brief number of seconds they will solve most of the small puzzles with very little effort.
Okay. All right. I think we're good on the overview. I think we're getting into the nitty gritty here. You ready to move?
We are starting to get very specific. All right, let's go back to the beginning. Let's get specific.
All right. So I have some stuff about the general features. So I think that's page.
Oh, I have many notes on the general features.
Okay. I think, yeah.
Well, actually, before general features, back on the first page with hooks, there are no random encounters in this adventure.
Yep.
So at no point are you looking to see if some monster shows up or some weird effect happens, which I feel is a missed opportunity to make the space feel more alive and to introduce some danger or some ticking clock. So Alex, please add some random encounters of some kind to make the space feel a little more interesting and complex. But yes, let's move on to general features. The general features bullets, there are, 5 bullets here that describe the entrances, the light, the design of the rooms, the doors and the ceilings, which are good thoughts and information that the GM needs, but presented here, it's incredibly complex because it says, for instance, the entrances to rooms 3, 5, 7, and 8 cannot be accessed during these times. The light in rooms 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are different during the day and the night, but not in 4, 6, and 10. And in 7 and 8, it's different during different times. There's no way I can front load that information and use it later. Either I'm flipping back and forth between this page and the rooms, or I'm making notes. So information with this level of complexity needs to be in the room for the GM so that they know at that moment, what is the light here? What is the ceiling here? If it's important, it should be in the room and not front loaded because there's no way I can keep track of this much complex detail, this many number variables. It's way too much information.
Yep. I have the exact same note.
Go team. Similar thing for the next section, which is the wind, which is how the blowing of the wind affects things. Again, it lists out how it affects different rooms. 1, 2, 7, and 8 are affected versus 3 and 5. There's no way for me to keep track of that as a GM as I'm trying to wrangle my players and describe rooms. The next section, right at the beginning, is a description of the 4 winds, these 4 wind gods, which is very interesting. I love having this sort of lore, and it does weave into the rest of the adventure eventually. Although I think it adds a layer of detail on top of the puzzle, which is going to be more confusing and complex than it is helpful and interesting. It describes the north, east, south, and west winds as these characters, old men, young boys, whatever, and they each have a theme and an object, which is great. But again, it's tons of detail, which is all just being applied on top of musical notes later on, and a statue at the end. Having that information for the statue is a useful solve. But it's not front-loaded information that I, as the GM, am going to carry around in my head and use. It might be nice to reference if it comes up a lot, but I don't think it will. And again, so this is all just still on one page that we're talking about. This is page 3. Mm-hmm. There's so much complex detail about the layout and all of these variables that as a GM, I would be daunted by, oh my God, I have to front-load all of this information before I even get to one room. So that's worrying me as a GM.
Yeah. Would you include less detail about each of the depictions of the winds? So like just north wind, an old man, east wind, a young boy, south wind, a young woman, or west wind,
yes.
An older woman?
Oh, absolutely. Yep. I might even, I also like tables when I can apply them. I would absolutely make a little table here and just say, north wind, old man, snake, or disease. Give me one word, one symbol. Each of these guys has like 3 or 4 symbols. That's way too much complexity. I know it's very realistic and it's rich lore, but this is a one-shot adventure. It's too much for anyone to handle. And it's way too much for the players to try to keep track of. They're hearing this secondhand. So I would simplify all of that. And the last thing on this front page, it talks about the fact that there are these musical murals which the players are going to discover, and they piece together these murals to figure out the musical notes that they need to play at the very end of the adventure, which is a cool idea, and it might work in Zelda or in a video game where you can see these things and spend time with them or pull them back up in some kind of menu. But this is going to rely heavily on the players recognizing that 5 lines is a musical staff, which lots of human beings will not be able to do, and then being able to read those notes in some fashion, which most human beings are not going to be able to do. And also the notes are represented by the east and west winds, which then corresponds to the east and west flutes of this double flute. There's so much detail. It's a very cool concept, and I don't feel like a human being GM is going to be able to convey it, and a human being group of players is going to be able to understand it in a natural, effortless way. I think they're going to be struggling the entire session to explain these things to each other.
I was very confused just reading about the musical murals. I understand, having read the whole thing, that you're supposed to find the missing pieces, which are the missing notes, which go together to form the final song. But at the very end, there's an item that you find on the body. It's just there, and it's the song. It's all the notes, right? It's the same one. It's called The Call.
I believe that's correct. But yes, no, the author, again, Alex has done an amazing job of both describing these musical murals in text, and then he's created illustrations, very nice illustrations of all of them. But again, this is pages. There's a whole page of content, which is just these murals, which now I, as the GM, need to explain to my players or just show them. And they're full of data. So there's 5 rows. There's 2 characters in each mural. Each of these characters, the East Wind and the West Wind gods, they're each doing a different action. So if I'm a player, I'm being overwhelmed with, oh my God, wait, the East Wind is playing on a log. No, the West Wind is climbing on a log. And over in this next one, the East Wind is splashing. And there's so many words, and I don't know what's important and what's not important. So as a player, I'm being overwhelmed with data. As a GM, I'm being probably overwhelmed with questions, so I have to keep repeating, and I'm probably going to get the words wrong and have to say, no, 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 that one's not splashing, that one's climbing on a log. So trying to convey the details of this puzzle, I think, is going to be onerous and basically not fun.
I think the whole thing could actually be removed, and there could be a much simpler puzzle in its
Absolutely.
stand-in.
Yes. Each of these murals could just be a static image of one thing. You could say, "Oh yeah, guy with a hat." It's. I understand absolutely what he's trying to create. He's trying to create all of the sections of a staff of musical music with notes on it that a person who is familiar with a musical staff could read as actual notes, which is a lovely concept. And I bet he's actually sat down on a keyboard and played it, and he knows what it sounds like. And my hat is off to a person who has that kind of dedication to detail and realism, but it's not going to translate, I think, in a game at a table.
All right. That's all I have for page 3. Also,
Yes, on page 3. I've moved on to page 6.
awesome.
Carry on. No, we need to rush along. There's so much content. On page 6, so on page 4 and 5, we have outstanding maps
It's
that
beautiful.
describe the rooms, and there's a lot of detail. They're drawn. There's lots of illustrations in the room. It's fantastic maps. Well done, Alex, on the illustrations. That helped me to visualize this very well. And again, it makes me think I would need to put this in front of the players. I can't just describe this because it's so complex. But then we move on to the text, page 6, where we start describing the rooms. In the first room, Chrissy made an excellent point that you would have started the adventure at the end where they see the widget that they play with, and then they go look for the clues to learn how to play it. I think that's absolutely the right approach. Entering in room 1, where you manipulate this huge structure for the first time without knowing what the structure is or what your goal is, feels very confusing. If you could see the end goal first and realize, oh, I need to figure out the music, would probably be a helpful way to present the information.
So I don't blame you for missing it because it's buried in some of the subtext, but there are bars which block the controls. So it's a locked area where you cannot get into to rotate this first room.
Yes, no, there's tons of obstacles to overcome, which again makes it even more complex. You have to overcome obstacles to get to the information, to get to solving the problem or the puzzle at the end, which I think is too many layers for this kind of gameplay. But when we get to the description of this rotating room, this first room, again, this is massively complex. So there's a spinning room. It has 6 exits that align with 8 cardinal directions, which, when turned, the wind passes through the room, goes down different tunnels, reveals different murals. And there's a little table here of the 3 different directions you could turn it to. There's so much data.
This
It
is
makes me
actually
wish
the
that all of
entry
this.
that took me the longest to read.
Oh,
I read it
absolutely.
in order, and I had to reread this several times. Yeah.
No, it was baffling, the level of complexity and the level of detail. When I finally had it all on board and understood what it was trying to say, I wish the entire thing had been presented as one giant 2-spread table. Just tell me, like, if it's in position 1, what do I see and see and see, and what do I feel? Wind, wind, wind. And if I turn it to position 2, what do I see here and here? Because trying to parse all of these bullets and all of these images was overwhelming. As a GM reading it, I can't imagine what it would be like for a player hearing about it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think I totally agree. I think breaking these up into subsections, because right now everything's all smashed into area 1. You can have
Yep.
some subsections over here with some sub keys, A, B, C, if you really need to get into the nitty gritty. It's a lot easier to reference. Making everything not visible at one time is, I think, very important in a tabletop RPG. At least for me, when I see a round room with several things to look at, or several exits, or an octagonal room where you have 8 different things that you can see all at once, it's a lot for me to kind of grok and pick up. And I know that you're talking a lot about light and distance and stuff, but that is one easy way. That is an easy tool that I think as creators that we can limit sight and distance. and make it easier to manage small chunks of interactable things at once. As far as the information presentation with this table, there are three possible rotations, right, for rotating this room, and they're all given names as cardinal directions, but also the alcoves are labeled as cardinal directions, and there are several other things which say cardinal directions. So setting north opens up west and northwest and all these other things, and that's very confusing to present. I thought maybe a quick fix for the dial was to just have images of the winds, right? We have the background for the old man or the child or something. So instead of a north setting, you say, okay, I set it to old man. And that gives a little bit more reason to know what the old man is for. Yep. And then you can reference it in the table as old man setting instead of, north or west or something. And that gives a little bit more varied information to kind of hold on to. As of right now, I was lost in the acronyms for, W, NW, and East. And I'm like, so which area does this relate to? But again, having labels on the map would help. Say, okay, this opens up the airflow through to Area 5. That's totally fine. I can understand that. I can grok that.
No, absolutely. If these different openings were labeled A, B, C, D, that would be easier than northwest, southeast, over and over again. But also I think if they were to minimize the complexity here, just by go left, there's a room, solve the puzzle there, and you see mural 1, and you say, yay, we've accomplished something, and then go right, solve the puzzle there.
That's great.
See mural 2. And that would have felt like progression. We're making progress. Just spinning this one giant room around, trying to grok all the different things that are changing around you constantly over and over again, I think is too much all at once without a feeling of progress.
Totally agree. That's a good idea too, is get that little serotonin hit and get the little bit of information that you need. Kind of hand feed it and build on the puzzle.
Also, if you have small rooms, maybe they go to room B and they get stuck, they can't figure it out, but then they go to room C and they solve it, and they go, oh, I understand what we're supposed to be doing. They can go back to room B and then they solve it. If you're stuck in just one big room, there's no progress. If you're getting stuck, there's nothing else to do but be stuck there, and that feels terrible. It feels bad to not be solving a problem. That's why Joe, when he's a player and he gets frustrated, he goes to the snack table and waits for someone else to solve it, because it feels bad.
Absolutely. All right, I'm done with the first entry. You?
Let's move on. Let's move on to room 2. We're making great progress. I have no issue with room 2. I have no notes about it. It's a small room with not a lot going on. There are a number of these rooms that are small rooms that have simple things to interact with, where it might be nice to have something you discover, you read, or a person to talk to, or a ghost to talk to, something a little more interactive. There are a couple rooms where there are some monsters that you can bump into, which is various things, but I don't like to have a lot of rooms where the room just sits there and there's no dynamism, if that's a word. A little more interactivity or excitement. It could just be something funny happens. But there are a couple of these rooms, like number 2, where nothing as much is happening.
Number 3, there's a lot of stuff to interact with.
There is.
There's a lot going down. And I think reordering this to figure out what the most important things are for the referee to describe and talk about up front would help. This happens on the East flute interior as well. There's a lot going on in that particular hallway.
There are, and one of the frustrations I had was reading through, most of the description is just that these are giant flutes with holes in the top. But there actually isn't anything for you to do. You can't reach up and manipulate the caps on the holes, because it's part of this big mechanism that you have to go to the control room. So why am I in this tunnel if I can't manipulate the thing to make sounds? That would seem like the most obvious thing if I'm a player. I'm like, oh, this is where I'm in one of the flutes. Yeah. Let me open and close the caps and change the notes. And the GM's going to say, you can't.
I honestly don't think it would hurt anything either. I think you should totally be allowed to manipulate it on both ends. If you want 3 or 4 players to go and maneuver and jump up and grab things and pull it up and down, have the small flute react to what the big flute is doing also. I think that's...
Sure, yeah. I think players would want to do that at least. But I also don't know what they might accomplish. They would have to learn how to play a flute from the inside. So there'd have to be some way to reward them doing something correctly if that was possible. Otherwise, you're just standing in a giant hallway with a weird ceiling, and there's literally nothing to do except experience being in a giant hallway.
This monster / obstacle, the marrow barnacles. So as written, it's blocking one of the holes, right? So they'll need to be cleared off in order to get the right sounds, which is part of like one of the small sub puzzles. If a loud trill is played on an instrument near them, they will close their shell and detach from whatever they're stuck to. So I have a few things about this puzzle that I didn't quite understand, which I think would come up in play. There's a strong wind blowing through here. They have pheromones that they release, although now...
Yeah, this is their one defense mechanism, is that they make you cough for a minute. That's the worst they can do. They have no attack, they just make you cough.
Yeah.
Which is... my note here was that there's no actual danger from these objects. It doesn't even say if they'll cause you harm if you touch them because they're pointy. They're just things in the way, and if you hit them hard enough, you will break them off. They have 3 armor, but again, I can easily imagine my players going, "Oh, well, they're just in the way. We'll just stand here and bash them. Can we do that?" And I'll say, as the GM, "Yeah, you can stand here and bash them, and eventually you knock them off." And they'll say, "Okay," and they do, and I say, "Oh, you start coughing because some stuff comes out." Does it harm us? No, it doesn't harm you. Just cough a little bit. All right. I think that's a very underwhelming problem to overcome.
Yep.
If it's make it a monster, make it fight back, make it awful tongues lash out of these barnacle things and do weird creepy things. Make it a dynamic thing. Just because it's a puzzle dungeon doesn't mean it's not still a dungeon with strange dangers.
There's a super fun illustration on the last page and also on page 11, I think, of these barnacles, or that might be yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got long tongue things.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, no, make those exciting or scary or weird. But no, as it currently is, it's just my players are going to hit this with a hammer until they go away, and they might cough a couple times. So it's not much of a problem to overcome. Let's see. Moving on to number 4, we have a stairway, which has a chest where we spin one of these propellers. And the treasure we find is something called a pearl of stillness. And if we read the description, a pearl of stillness means that nothing can move faster than walking, which, as far as I'm concerned, is not stillness. It's not even a pearl of slowness. It's a pearl of normal speed. So I was a little underwhelmed by that as a magical object. I think a pearl of actual stillness would be very cool if it froze everything in place, but it does not do that.
I thought it was pretty neat. The name aside, I immediately thought, how would this affect combat? When you're fighting, when you're really, really engaged, when you're really, moving and your body's going, like, do you have to take slow breaths? Are you breathing in heavily back and forth? I thought you couldn't do any sword swinging. It would have to be very, very slow swinging of the sword back and forth, right? No fast movements. I don't think you would be able to fight very well in this cone. Maybe you could suffocate someone. That seems like maybe it's doable. I thought that was a neat kind of like OSR kind of tool for this area. But yeah, the name should change.
I think what you've just described was very cool. What I read was just you've created a pocket where everything walks instead of runs. So no, something that is like a slow-mo bubble where it's hard to breathe or whatever. That sounds very cool. I did notice the description says everything, including the air, slows down.
Yeah.
So maybe if you're in this wind tunnel and everything's blowing really fast, you can pop this pearl, and it will slow down the wind if that's what you want to happen. But again, I can easily imagine my players saying, "Well, that's not very exciting. I'm not going to use that," and we immediately forget about it. So something more complex description maybe for that concept.
I want to jump back to 3 really quick because I think this
Sure.
is done on other entries as well. The first line of the entry is the double flute's western half is a long conical bore decorated with colorful
Mm-hmm.
engravings, right? And so they have bolding throughout on the things to be interested in. And the first bold thing is just flute, right? The double flute. But it's just talking about the space that they're in. I think they could eliminate that line and instead of bolding flute, just give us that information in a different way. It seems like it's just trying to adhere to the bolding bullet format without.
It is unnecessary. I mean, the word flute is the entire dungeon
Yes.
in this instance, and it was a yeah. No, it's completely unneeded.
So I think if you're trying to convey that information, you can have that outside of the bullets. Like the information over here, it says if area 1 in northwest or north rotation setting, the barnacles are cleared from the window, the wind will produce a low rumbling note. And I think that can be shortened up, stuck at the top, and said this is how the room is different if this condition is met,
Sure.
with shorter words. Yeah.
Yeah. No, a lot of these descriptions are full sentences, which is very clear, which is good, but also they're very wordy, and I don't think that all of these words are needed all the time. So I like the clarity, but it can be edited down.
There was a note I had on 4.2. It's talking about. So the text says a small room containing a strange chest, door, and staircase leading up. And my note is just on the word strange and how you should be showing and not telling that it's strange. I can say that
Absolutely.
it's strange. My
Yeah, it's
strange.
like saying a scary door. Why? Why is scary?
My strange was completely different from what was described for this chest. I was like, whoa, what is strange about this chest? It has a propeller for a lock. And I think just moving that into the description is fine. If you want to keep the propeller, it's like, well, there's a propeller blade on the chest. And a player may say, oh, that's strange or that's weird, but, just move the description up there. I don't need them to investigate something for me to say there's a propeller on it when they can see it.
Sure. Absolutely agree. Let's see. Number 5, the East flute interior. This is almost verbatim identical to the West flute interior, except it makes different notes. But again, there is some interesting dangers here, though. We finally get some monsters. We have a couple of coral strixes, which I assume are cool coral or owls. I do love owls, so thank you for putting some strixes in here. This is an amphibious bird, though. Strix, I'm pretty sure, is a barn owl. Oh no, that's a Titus. Strix is a horned owl. I'm getting very obsessed with owls right now. So we have some birds. Is the point. We finally have some monsters. We also have a pile of garbage sitting on the floor, which becomes a flute golem, which is very cool. So these were both great ideas. I found it wild that we had 2 different types of monsters in one room.
That affect
Which,
each
yeah,
other.
Right. This is we're walking into the first room that has any kind of dangerous creatures described. Again, there are no random encounters in this dungeon, and suddenly there's 2 of them, and they're very complex and they're very dangerous. One of them's huge, 2 of them are flying. So yeah, this seemed like a huge leap in challenge and danger, from my point of view.
Definitely agree. Introduce one of these things in a relatively safe location. Just introduce players slowly before you whip out the huge challenge where you're combining multiple challenges together and say, well, I know how to deal with this thing solo, but how do I deal with it while I'm also fending off a flute golem while this coral strix is trying to pull me limb from limb? They're both very complex, and I think as a referee, I would need to be ready to run this room, and as a player, I would be overwhelmed, and I would say, let's just get out of here or run really quick.
And also, if this room is meant to be played this way, then I, as a writer, would want to be very clear to the GM. The wind going through this room will wake up the golem, and the golem's going to make noise, which is going to wake up the Strix. So just make it very clear that there is a sequence of events and dangers. And don't make the GM, the poor GM, read all of this text and pluck out the causes and effects and realize what's going to happen. Just tell the GM what's happening. They have enough work to do at the table. Be
Absolutely.
the GM's friend. Always be the GM's friend.
I have a small note over here about the door with the musical note. This is the same puzzle as the east side, or sorry, the west
Yep.
side, and the same limitation should be noted here, or it should be noted elsewhere outside of the keys that it's hard to play a sustained note with the blasting wind.
Sure. No,
If
if
we're
that's a
keeping that
consistent
puzzle,
challenge, then that should be noted everywhere. Again, be the GM's friend. Don't make them do more work.
this flute golem seems vicious. I have a note here that said this is going to be a tough fight. Just this flute golem alone, I think, is wild. Uh, what
No,
is?
absolutely. It's a huge, strong thing. The noise that it makes you have to do a will save or your attacks are impaired.
Yep.
It does critical damage that traps you inside it. No, it's wild. It's a fantastic monster. It's very good design, but it is very challenging, and there are already other monsters here, so there's a lot happening.
Yep. Slowly introduce some smaller challenges. Work up to the big thing. Um, Reward the previous knowledge gained that the PCs have on how to tackle things, and let them plan on it beforehand.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right. So that was room number 5. Room number 6. Room number 6 is another room that just has a chest, a door, and a staircase. So there's a lot of parallel structure, which I do like in concept, because it allows you to say, "Oh, all right, I've seen one of these small rooms before. I'm learning. I can apply that knowledge." We were just talking about that before with monsters. But again, this is a very simple room. There's just one object. It's just a chest. It has the exact same lock as the other one, the propeller lock, which is also described as strange here. So again, find ways to differentiate if you have parallel rooms. The parallelism is good because it allows the players to learn, but then there should be something different. So maybe instead of a propeller, it's something else that they have to
Yep.
manipulate
Or the
in a
propeller is
parallel
missing.
fashion. Very good, absolutely. The propeller's missing, and they say, "Oh crap, we've seen this before. Let's go find the missing propeller." Or maybe we already found a missing propeller. Let's go get it. So that's a fantastic way to reward the players for paying attention and exploring and learning. But just presenting the exact same room again is less exciting. So room 7, the West Flute exterior. So now we're outside, up on top of this flute drone, hanging outside over the ocean. Very exciting. And now instead of having some holes in the ceiling, we're looking at these holes in the floor. But again, this is parallel structure. I'm not sure what there is for the players to do. I don't know why they would come to this place. They can clear away the barnacles, I suppose. But there's nothing for them to interact with. They can again try to force open and close the flute holes, but they're not meant to do so. They're meant to do that from the control room. So I don't see a reason why the players would ever come to this space.
I
Number 7.
think this space is designed to be easier to reach the top because the space to the east has those two massive crazy monsters in it, right? There's nothing
It
going on
does.
in hallway 3. There's even some iron spikes that they could climb on the end, which are described in the 3 hallway, that they could climb to the top. And then once they get to the top, they realize, wow, there's a bridge, but it's broken. And also there's all this coral that we're going to need to chip off in order to get to the other side, which I think was the intended, one of the intended issues that they would need to solve, or challenge, rather.
Yeah, it's a way to break off that coral. I don't know if it's also meant to be a way to access room number 9, which seems to have some coral breaking in through the wall. So if it's supposed to be an alternative way of going up and down stairs, maybe.
Yeah, that was
Although,
unclear to me because it seems like
yeah,
9 is embedded within the bone, right? That
it
is not
I
free
thought so.
showing.
Yes, but the diagram also has the coral breaking through the wall. I'm unclear. But yeah, I'm not sure why you would ever go to the outside of the flute drones on 7 and 8 because there's nothing to actually do there. But they are described in detail.
Yeah.
Um,
Having a reason to explore, I think, would help that and get
yes.
players moving around. Wandering encounters could push players to move into different spaces from where they were if they were pressured, right? If they were on the end of the flute and something was coming at them, like, well, let's climb up. Can't go down in the ocean. Or
Yeah.
maybe they could.
Or if there was generic treasure occasionally lying around to be found. If there were pearls and some clams or something, this is at the seaside.
Dig that.
The one feature here that is present on location 8 is we finally find this guy Teo, the one NPC in the adventure. One of our hooks was to go arrest this guy. And again, he's the nicest, most helpful NPC you'll ever find, who will give you all of the exposition and answers and tell you how the whole flute thing works.
He's a teddy bear.
Yeah, no, he's super helpful. He has, and if you try to hurt him, he runs away. He has no attacks. This is obviously supposed to be an anti-violence adventure, which I'm fine with. I've tried to write things that are not focused on or reliant on violence, and that's great. But it pretty much means you can talk to him or he'll fly away. He literally has a glider and he can just fly out of your lives, and you'll never be able to catch him. So
I don't
there's
know
not a lot
how
of dynamic interactions.
I don't know how to deal with the coral strix or the flute golem without violence. The coral.
I think if you can shut off the wind, then the flute golem will fall down and it'll stop being, and then he'll be quiet, and then the strixes will go back to sleep. So I think if you sneak around quietly.
But eventually, you do need wind blowing in there to solve the final puzzle, right? So I guess you just clear them out, shove them off into the ocean, maybe.
Or you just let them be in there and don't be in there when it goes off.
But he says he gives off like a cacophonious din, which
Indeed.
I took that to mean that it would interfere with the song, but maybe not.
I guess it's like two instruments playing at the same time. One of them's right and one of them's wrong. I don't think there's any note that says if the flute golem is making noise, it ruins the song. But
that's true. I did see a really cool weakness for the coral strix that is completely negated, in that it's blind and it's aggravated by noises, but it says once it is locked onto a target, it can always identify its location. I think remove that line and I would love it.
That would make it more dynamic. It becomes just a regular danger as long as it can find you.
Yeah.
The fact that it's amphibious is interesting, except there's no water here, so it doesn't affect the gameplay.
Also, if Tio is going to be on the top of 8, I think we need a description of him somewhere in the upper level. So maybe like a little summary. I said, this is the upper level. Everyone can see Tio because he's just right there.
Sure. No, from number 7, you should be able to see him standing on 8. Or if you're down in, where is it, number 5, you should be able to see him up through the holes in the ceiling. You should see him walking around or hear him walking around above you. That would be at least something more dynamic and interesting. I thought it was weird that there's this little bridge in between 7 and 8 on the outside that's broken, that clearly no one is going to want to jump across because it's very windy, and it's described as if you jump, you're basically going to get blown away and die. Mm-hmm. So I'm not sure why that's even offered.
I think maybe they were trying to go for what this image is on page 6 of the double flute, which again I had never seen before.
It's very cool.
Like that. It is cool.
No, it's a fantastic illustration, and I like that little connecting bar. I would have left it in the dungeon so that people could walk across and just say, look, it's going to be super dangerous to walk across.
Yes.
You can try if you want to.
Random encounter, maybe one of those strix coming up to you as you're crossing.
Right, that'd be more exciting. But having it broken, my players are just going to say, well, we can't go that way, and they're not going to go that way.
Yeah.
So it feels like another missed opportunity. But here on page 11, we have that great barnacle illustration you were talking about.
Yes.
Those do look very scary. I wouldn't want to touch a barnacle that's that huge and has long, snaky feelers coming out of it.
Yes. We should give Tio some motivation which is contrary to the players. Maybe he does not want the flute to be played. Right?
That would be good. Or he also wants the same thing they want. He's trying to get the flute maker's tools or something. Yeah, right now he's just harvesting barnacles, I think, and that's fine. we don't care about the barnacles. He can have all the barnacles he wants. So having someone that we don't have any conflict with is going to make for a very dull interaction. unless we've been sent to arrest him, in which case he's just going to fly away on his glider.
I also wasn't sure how they were harvesting the barnacles.
No, he only has smoke pellets in a glider, so I don't know how he's doing anything.
I feel like
He
my
doesn't have a
players would be
tool.
like, can we harvest them? Are they useful? Are they valuable?
You can make the cough
The
pellets out
cough
of them,
pellets,
so
yeah.
I guess that has a use. They're also edible, apparently.
And I guess, yeah, if you gave them something to like scrape it off, that would be interesting, and that would kind of clue them in that you can do this the long way, but it's going to take turns, which is going to be your resource, which, if you have wandering encounters, is going to be
Right.
the
A
long and
random
hard
encounter
way to
should be,
do
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah. Some Strixes will show up. There are a lot of ways to make this more dynamic and challenging. Make the players make some cost-benefit analysis.
Glider's cool. I think players would enjoy that. It says easily
I put gliders in
broken.
so many of my games. I think gliders are super cool. But yes, there's nowhere to go. If you strap on Teo's glider, you're just out of the adventure. You're gone.
It would be neat if there was something to get to off in the distance. Like you could see caves past the
Yes, or
flute.
there's a like rock spire up in the distance, and you can see another piece of the flute is balanced on top of that rock spire. And if you could get to it, it would be even better. You don't need it, but it would be even better if you got that thing.
And multiple ways to get it, I think, would be fun. The glider's fun. It says it's easily broken. I could see them not getting the glider or convincing Tio to get the glider or breaking the glider, right? But maybe
Yeah.
finding something that the Strixes like and
Oh, that's
coercing
great
them.
because now we have amphibious birds. So our
Yeah.
rock thing is out in the water. So if we can ride on a Strix, or if we can trick a Strix, or we can tame a Strix, players love pets. So yeah, no, that would be great. An interactive thing in the distance that's optional, but very tempting.
Or you do the hard way with ropes and probably die.
Yes,
Dig
there's
it.
always the hard option. Well, and then somebody's casts fly, and they just fly over there and get it. You're like, dang it, you've solved my puzzle.
Yes.
All right, this brings us to room 9. We're back to an interior room, which is described as the Strix Roost. Uh, and again, it's a room full of coral, and it's a room full of Strixes, so it's at least dangerous.
A
But
lot of Strixes.
a lot of Strixes. But other than that, there's nothing. There's no furniture in this room. There's no objects. If I describe this to my players, they're just going to run through it as fast as they can or quietly
Yes.
as they can. There's nothing to do here except get to the doors. So not very dynamic.
It does say you have to sustain the cord on the locked door to open it for 10 seconds. That
Yep.
could be a long 10 seconds, depending on if
I mean,
these
any
things
10
are
seconds
awake.
is a long 10 seconds.
Yes.
But then the note says it may draw the ire of the Strixes. So the fact that it's only may and not definitely is underwhelming.
When I read this, I took it to be like, okay, no one is going to hang out in here. Yeah, they're probably just going to run through. And actually, I didn't notice that there's a door that connects to room 10. I thought the only way to room 10 was from the staircase below, but it looks like there is two doors in here, the locked door and the room to room 10. Yeah, they just run to the unlocked door.
There is, but the door to room 10 is not described in room 9 at all. So
Yeah.
it's not I wouldn't be able to tell my players if that's locked or not. So I would let them go. Yes, you found the door, go through it. You're
Yeah,
in room 10 now.
there's a little dot in the locked doors. I think it. Yeah, I think it's fine if you
I
have
see
the
that
map
dot
out
now,
for
yes.
reference. Yeah,
All right. But then we get to room 10.
yeah.
Now things
Okay.
are getting complex. All right. Rooms 10 and 11, very complex, very interesting. A lot of text for these two rooms. So room 10 is not the final room. Room 10 is this large statue puzzle, separate puzzle. We do have the skeleton, the bones of this flute maker, Boehm or Biom. Biom. Let's call him Biom. The flute maker. We find his bones and we find his tools. That was one of the other hooks to find his tools, which is cool. It would also be cool to talk to his ghost and find out what's going on here
Yes,
and why this all happened.
and how he died to his own
or-
trap.
Right. So we know what this trap does. It has two. This statue has two faces on it, or two openings, and one of them gives you his magic fan, which is nice, and the other one is poison gas. So I guess he died from the poison gas, which is kind of underwhelming that he got killed by his own trap. But these things happen. So this is the time when the information about the four winds and their genders and their ages and their their special object is useful information because it allows you to
Yeah.
solve this one puzzle.
It is the only
But
time it
again,
is useful.
it's the only time.
It does
Correct.
not build on any other puzzles. I
Absolutely.
think the whole puzzle could be dropped, replaced with something else, music related or wind related, something that you've been learning as you go through.
Yes. Unless you wanted to seed this information throughout the dungeon, and then this is the place where you get to use it. But even that feels overly complex and distracting. But you're absolutely correct. I would make this a different kind of trap, a different kind of puzzle. Um, where, yes, if they do it wrong, they get punished, and if they do it correctly, they get the magic item, which is great. But amongst the tools, we also get this piece of parchment, which has the melody, which is Asga Tovna's Call, um, which is one of the things that you can play
I want to know
on the.
why the flute maker was calling this ghost. I feel like there's something there, and I want it to matter in the adventure.
No, absolutely. I was going to get to that because we do that in the next room. But yeah, so the whole point about room 10 is it has this statue and this trap. It would be nice to talk to Biome, and the trap could be simpler. It's very long. It's 2 columns of text. It could be simpler and probably more dynamic for the players. But then we finally get to room 11, the control room, the room where you very aptly pointed out should be the first room because it explains how everything works. So there's a little flute in here, and if you play the little flute, it makes the big flute, the dungeon flute, play. So if you saw that first, you say, okay, I understand. I need to fix the big dungeon flute to play the song. Um, and in here we have, again, a bunch of these murals that have 5 lines and that they have the gods that are swimming in different rivers, which is overly complex, and it's missing pieces and the pieces from downstairs. There's way too much going on. My players, I'm going, crazy. Joe is off getting snacks while someone else solves where the murals go. And then the upshot is, again, as players at a table, you can say, okay, well, we found murals 1, 3, 5, 7 downstairs, and here we have 2, 4, 6 upstairs. We put them in correct order, they say out loud. They don't have to say what the notes are. I'm not gonna, as the GM, I'm not going to make them list the notes or sing the notes or get out a keyboard and play the notes. So collecting all this data is meaningless. They just say, all right, we take the information and I play the notes correctly. And I, the GM, say, okay, good. You play the notes correctly and you succeed.
It
So
also
a
completely
lot of
doesn't
page
matter
space. It
because
absolutely does not matter.
the
So
parchment
much
on the
ink.
skeleton has the correct notes. They
This is
just
also
read,
true.
they play the notes that they find on the parchment, which is the same
Yes.
song as a god as
As a
Gatovna's
Asgatovna.
as Gatovna. Thank you.
I feel like that name could have a second draft on it. But anyway, it's almost perfect. But yes, no, there's so much ink has been spilled on these pages about these murals and describing them and depicting them, and it doesn't even matter, both because it's given to you and because the players just say, I do the thing. And the GM says, okay, you do the thing. And then the result of doing the thing, you finally play this musical composition that you've been compiling all this time, and you summon Asgatovna's ghost, who appears in the ocean outside the Titansflute and announces her presence by singing the melody back. And what?
It
What,
ends.
what is the payoff? What does she give you a wish? Does she tell you critical information? We don't know. She just shows up. Um,
Yeah, I know
and
that
one
this
of our
is
hooks,
related to the hook.
one
Yes.
of our hooks said, go find her ghost and she'll give you advice for this person who wants advice. But what is it? What does she say? We get nothing from her.
Yeah, I want to know what she wants. Is is there any knowledge of the past that could serve as a PC reward? I want ideas for those. Like, oh,
Absolutely.
there's
There should
treasure
be a
up in
table
those
or a
cliffs
list.
off on the side over there, right? Pirates used to use those caverns. Make it another hook for something else. Why was the flute maker summoning them? What were they summoning them for? Is it time dependent? Is something happening in 50 or 100 years? Like, is that tomorrow? You know, something to, propel play.
Yeah, no, there's a wild situation going on here. This guy found a dead Titan's neck bone. He carved it into a flute. He got himself killed. The flute can summon the Titan's ghost. This is all very cool, but what's the point? And there's nothing. It just ends. The adventure just ends right there. It just says she shows up, and she has a stat block. Are you going to fight this ghost? What? That was wild to me. She's an incorporeal spirit. She's vulnerable only to magic. She's lived for millennia. She's willing to share her knowledge, and she does critical damage. Like, why is she fightable?
But if you take the critical damage, you're possessed. If you fail your will save, you're acting only on behalf of the ghost's whims. But I do not know what those whims are.
Right. We're missing like this critical last little paragraph. What does she want, or what does she know?
Yes. The relationship with the flute maker, I think, is interesting, and her past knowledge, her knowledge of the past, her knowledge of this area. I think there's lots of rich ideas in this well to kind of draw from. We just need it here.
Yeah, no, this is where the big payoff should be, and there's no payoff. It just stops. And we get after this the bestiary and the treasury relisting the information we saw before, which is very well done. Correct. Very good, Alex. So that brings us to the end. So we have a lot of complexity, which is going to be hard for the GM and the players. We have some rooms where not a lot is happening. We have rooms that echo each other, and we have a lack of interactivity, a lack of danger in a lot of these rooms, and we have this overly complex puzzle, which in essence doesn't matter, which you don't actually solve. You look at the pieces, or you find the solution in this parchment, and you get a ghost, and then nothing happens with the ghost. So we have a lot of things that I think we could punch up, that we could make simpler and more rich by turns. What are your thoughts?
I want to jump back real quick, because I agree with you with a lot of this. I think I need to disable my Discord notifications real quick. And
you talk to other people on Discord? I thought I was the only one.
Unfortunately, notifications. Shoot. All right, I'm just going to hope no one messages me. There is a way to do this.
You're all mine now. I got 60 or 70 playtesters hanging out on my server. I'm sure they'll behave.
All right, let me just go back real quick, because I echo a lot of your final things, but I think there's some tweaks and modifications to some of these puzzles to make them relate to the ones previous.
Mm-hmm.
I think that instead of notes on some of those sub doors, just sustaining like a B note for a certain length of time, I think instead of that, encouraging experimentation for certain notes being related to certain winds, which then in turn are related to certain depictions. So an old man is a sustained B note. And there's a way to find that out from a simple puzzle, which you can introduce and move forward with. And then in 10, maybe you have a way of knowing what those notes are. So you can play those notes and it will be related to music. And you say, oh, I know that this is the old man. Let me play the B note sustainingly because I've been at these other puzzles before. I've explored, so I have that knowledge. So reward me for that knowledge. So I thought that might be a way to change up that puzzle a little bit.
You've inspired an idea in me.
Yes.
I just finished playing Ori and the Will of the Wisps, and there's a music puzzle in that game. And it's very simple. There's a diagram in the background that just has dots that are high, low, and medium. And then there's some bells you can ring that are high, low, and medium. And you just need to play the bells in the sequence of the dots. You could have your players learn that, whatever symbol means high, medium, or low. And that's all they need, just 3 notes. And then you just say, all right, the pattern for this door is high, low, low, high. And then you say, all right, player, you have to do it. And they do it at the table. They go, la, 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 la. And then you say, yay, you did it. You opened the door. And then everyone gets to feel a little silly and do something at the table. And there's a little bit of play. And people can perform. But it's a performance you can do. You don't need to know musical notation or what a B is. You can just say high, medium, low. And now people can do stuff at the table interactively, even if it's not very complex. But they can feel rewarded because they've learned the 3 notes. There's only 3 notes in this system. And now they can do it at the table, and they can interact and laugh and have fun. And I think that would be a more interactive and fun way to do this kind of puzzle.
I like that idea, and I think you can even relate it to the winds also, and just have one wind be like silence. Like maybe.
Oh, that's great! Yes, perfect.
One. Yeah,
you've solved it.
I dig it. For the final puzzle, I think was missing some information to solve as is. I don't know what the correct rotation is of that center room to get the wind flowing through. Is it the north rotation? I would guess so.
I think it's the north rotation to make the wind go through both drones.
Okay.
I
think that should be written down, because I think it is kind of, I don't know, semi-obvious, but I would like it written down. Like, if it is in the north rotation, then the flute can play, but also list out what the other conditions are. If it is in the north rotation, if this barnacles has been cleared, if any of this gunk or whatever.
And if you do it wrong, something bad should happen. A monster shows up because it's irritated. Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I like that actually. It really pisses off a Leviathan over in the distance or something, and it causes
oh my God, another Titan comes out of the sea. It starts walking towards you. You have 5 rounds before it smashes you to pieces. No, there's great gameplay options right there, because you can see it out across the sea. You summon a storm.
I think those were all my my super detailed notes for those. I think overall, it's a really fun idea. Like you said, I think some of the puzzles could have been simplified. I want all or almost all of the puzzles to be related to sound or wind and build off of each other. And if we can roll in the monsters into that too, introducing them as monsters as puzzles, which could be solvable via those themes, which I think some of them are. Turning off the wind, as you said, for the golem, the flute golem, playing a specific sound for one of the other ones. I think these are cool, but I think it needs to be introduced and built off of. Maybe space was an issue also for this one, but it needs a little room to breathe with building on the puzzles. And I think...
And if page space was the issue, I think a lot of that will be recovered if we remove all of these diagrams of the murals.
Definitely.
And also, if Alex, if you want to tighten up the editing and simplify some of these sentences, you've described things, again, very clearly in complete sentences. I don't think you need to use complete sentences all the time when you're offering supporting detail for a lot of these objects.
All right, cool. Yeah. Anything else you wanna say on Titansflute?
Yeah, and I think if we were to clean up a lot of these areas where, again, the exterior spaces where currently nothing is happening, a lot of detail is being offered about like the floor openings. But again, these are things we can't interact with; they just exist. So if we can't interact with it, we need far fewer words about what's there, and you can recover a lot of space, and then use that space for things we can interact with, either monsters or more puzzles, or other things to look at for your players to have things to do at the table.
Right on. I think that's it. This is a good place to stop off. I think we've given our final notes on Titansflute. This has been Puzzle Dungeon Workshop as part of the Puzzle Dungeon Jam 2025. The jam is over right now, but if you want to check out these awesome submissions, these cool puzzle dungeons, just head over to puzzledungeon.com/jam and we'll get you to the itch page, or you just search itch Puzzle Dungeon Jam. I want to take a second real quick to talk about my puzzle dungeon, which is crowdfunding in February as part of Zine Month. It's called A Familiar Tower, and it is an escape room wizard dungeon crawl. Joe has played in it.
I have, and it's fantastic. It's got everything. It's got dogs, it's got cats, it's got rats, it's got potions, it's got wizards, it's got hands of all sizes. I highly recommend it.
And if you want props in there too, it really does come alive at the table. It's not necessary, but it's super fun having like a little just oatmeal box that you painted on the table as a tower.
No, that was fabulous, having that miniature tower on the table. It made everything make sense, and it played really great at the table.
I think I got a smile out of Joe, and I think you'll get a smile out of your players. So if you press this sign up button, you'll make me happy, because this number goes up, but the number of people that get notified when we launch in February. And BackerKit has notified me that this number is directly correlated with my success on their platform. So I would be able to stress more about other things and less about this thing if you just press that button. And that's all I got. Thank you so much, Joe, for coming on and helping me out. You have been fantastic. All of your hard work that you've put into this. Beautiful.
Thank you for including me. No, this has been super fun. And Alex, I hope you find this useful feedback. I know it can sound very critical when people are picking apart your work. I get tons of critical feedback, which is not always positive or helpful, but we generally think this is a cool idea for your adventure, and we just want to give you a lot of opportunities, a lot of ways to think about it, a lot of ways to improve it in our opinions. And of course, that's just our opinions. But I think you have a lot of talent here. You've done a lot of good writing and a lot of great illustration. And I think you could do even more great things with it.
This, I think, is the only thing on their itch page. Sounds of Bones is their itch page. So if this was their first adventure, I'm very impressed.
Very. That's
the
fantastic.
talent that they put into the artwork and the layout and the idea for this and the adventure. It's really cool. Thank you so much for submitting this.
No, it's very good work.
All right. I'll see you later. Ciao, Joe.
All right, great. Have a night. Good night. Have a good night.
I will definitely have a night. You too.
It's midnight here. Have a good night.
All right. Ciao, ciao.